This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly. Oof, England into the final of the Euros. They were seconds away from being knocked out, but let's face it, the 96th and the 119th minutes are not bad times to score. England weren't great, flat in the first half, better in the second without creating much, and we called for it on Monday. Get it launched to Agyemang. Michelle Agyemang with another crucial goal. She almost won it in extra time with a beautiful lob before Chloe Kelly, hero of the last Euros, scored the rebound after her penalty was saved. It was soft, but it was given. Agony for the lime greens, as the Italians have always been known. Also today, we have an Arsenal contingent on the pod, so we'll discuss Gyökeres and the rest of their spending. In other transfer news, is Emi Martinez going to Man United? Is Johan Wissa joining the Brentford Exodus? And Granit Xhaka's the next man going to Sunderland? Rangers start their season with a win in the Champions League. Palace appeal their European relegation, and the regulator is now the law. Someone with far too much time on their hands has rated our previews of last season. As always, we'll answer your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Nicky Bandini, welcome, commiserations.
Morning, thank you.
Nooruddean Choudry, hello.
Hello.
Jordan Jarrett-Bryan is here. Hey, Jordan.
Morning, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. Joining us from Geneva, was at the game last night, Nick Ames. All right, Nick?
Hello, Max. Yes.
Yeah, good. Luke says, has Barry taken the week off because it's coming home? Yeah, here we go again. England 2, Italy 1. Nick, you were there. I mean, it was it was very similar in a way, I guess, to the Sweden game where England didn't really turn up for quite a lot of it, but I don't know if that matters anymore. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't matter. We're in the final.
I haven't got a clue what it means either, Max. That was absolutely bonkers, wasn't it? Just another of those nights of white knuckle tournament football in a stadium here in Geneva that is brilliant for holding the noise in. So it was another full house, 26,000 or so, I think, and England fans and Italian fans as well in tremendous voice. And by the end, everyone is just shattered yet again for the second time in 5 days. And what does it mean? Like you can look at it in two ways, that this team has got such a resolve and certainty and confidence that they can find that way through at the end, even though for long periods they have frankly, I mean, England were laboured all night, really. I don't really think they had a good spell or a sparkling spell in the game. There's a couple of chances first half. I think Toon had one, James, who went off at half time. Couple of chances for Lauren Hemp shortly after the interval, and apart from that, it was all scratchy, desperate stuff. And Agyemang comes on, and what I loved about her equaliser, which came straight after England had a corner in I think about the 94th and 95th minute, and the keeper Hampton's up, and we're all like, okay, this is the moment, this is going to be the one. And then she, Chloe Kelly, fantastic player, but she puts it in the side netting, and it was face palms, or invisible face palms everywhere, and you think that's it. And then a few moments later, to go back to my train of thought, Agyemang gets cast almost as this battering ram agent of chaos, but the composure for a 19-year-old to connect a loose ball in the box at a moment like that, when it's on the line and the whole country is watching you, two whole countries are watching you, and not to snatch at it, but to take the touch and pick the spot and drill it. 19 years old, not played that much domestic football at all, except out on loan at Brighton. Absolutely extraordinary. So then the lid goes off the whole place. Obviously, like the subs are cascading down the byline, the touchline, the classic scenes, and then you think, okay, they're going to do this now. Italy, who, I mean, I'm sure Nicky will talk a bit more about, but were fantastic. I thought they were so well drilled and played it nearly perfectly. It was tactically spot on from a team that is sort of technically inferior. They looked out on their feet, and then fast forward, Agyemang again shows what a wonderful, subtle player she is too, by lobbing against the woodwork, which was a fantastic effort. And then you think, we've got the penalty rigmarole again. You're all ready for that, and then it did take a penalty, but only one penalty, and kind of a bit of a penalty, because Chloe Kelly steps up and again just puts it not wide enough of a keeper, parried. She's sharp enough to rebound, and then all hell breaks loose again. And still trying to make sense of it. Are you coming down on the side of it's written in the stars? They just always find something, or is it more they're going to get found out by quite possibly Spain on Sunday, who are quite capable of dishing out a clinic if you're on a sort of 5 or 6 out of 10, which England had been for most of the tournament.
I mean, that penalty, Nicky, it is so soft, isn't it? I mean, I'm watching it, delighted that it's been given, and then I just don't see maybe I don't see enough replays, but it's one of those where you think if that was against me, I'd be pretty. I mean, the Italian manager was furious, and I would have been.
Yeah, I don't know what to say with the penalty. I think it's one of those that it is a foul. If you do it somewhere else on the pitch, it is a foul. She is grabbing her, and I do think Severini initiated the contact, even though there was some contact both ways. When I watched it back, I think she does. It's one of those fouls that I think a lot of referees in the penalty area in the semi-final with 2 minutes left of extra time, a lot of them are going to go, you know what, it's not worth it. I think a lot of referees wouldn't have given it, and I think a lot of referees, I think any referee who hadn't given it, I don't think VAR would have overturned it. I don't think it would have been clear and obvious to the VAR booth if it hadn't been given. But I think the ones that was given, VAR was never going to overturn it, because unfortunately, as much as it breaks my heart, it is a foul. I think it's really hard. It's really easy to say it's soft, because I think it was soft. And I think if it had gone the other way, I think you would have absolutely had everyone in England kicking off about it. So it's completely fair to call it soft this way. But I think it's one of those that is soft and feels worse because of when it is and how it happens in the context of the match, rather than because it's an outrageous call. It isn't an outrageous call. I think there is a foul there. It's just a soft one. Yeah,
Mark Hackenberg I'm not sure who he was broadcasting for, said he wouldn't have given it because, you know, that's not how to decide a game, which is clearly not how referees are meant to referee football matches. You know, that's not how it works. Jordan, you were at Croydon Box Park. You have our sympathies. How much beer was flying around when that penalty, when the rebound went in, or when Ajimang scored?
Lots of gin and tonics, more so than beers, if I'm being honest. But yeah, not as much beers as you probably see in some of the men's games. I mean, the best moment of this whole game for me, guys, wasn't even necessarily the winner from Chloe Kelly. It was, and I lived in Italy for 5 years, it was when the Italian manager, I think it was when the penalty was conceded. Obviously, we can't hear what he's saying, but I'm pretty sure I saw him mouth "Vaffanculo" on camera, and that was the bit where I was like, "Yep, he's lost his head here." I thought this was a really, really good game, but for maybe not all great reasons. I thought England, for large parts of the first half, were actually quite poor. I think Lauren James had a couple of half chances that she could have done better with. Maybe Roos had a poor miss. But I thought the tempo from England for large parts of the game was really just tepid and slow. And I was really disappointed with the lack of intensity from their play. It took them quite a long time, 70 minutes onwards, I noticed, before they really just thought, sod it, as you love to say, Matt, get it launched, but also go 2 at the back. They had 3 and even 4 at the back for way longer than they needed to. Italy weren't a massive threat, so they didn't need to have 3 and 4 players at the back. So it just got, push another player from defence into midfield, and that really annoyed me. One of my favourite things, probably my favourite thing in football, is a great first touch. And forgive me, I forgot the Italian player's name who scored, but for her goal, that first touch is so good. And even Ajimang, her first touch, as Nick mentioned, was really good. Just get it out of her feet and a great strike, which is a double nutmeg. So when the gods are with you, the gods are with you on another day, that gets blocked by the defender or the goalkeeper. So the luck and the fortune was definitely with her on that particular moment. But I think for England, if they're going to win this final, be it Spain or Germany, they'll have to play a lot better, because I don't think in large parts they actually played that well. I think they were quite fortunate. And had Italy not lost their heads in that last 10 minutes, there was an opportunity when a player had a chance to either run into the corner or pass it inside to 2 of her colleagues. The player shot and it went wide. And I thought to myself, I'd be absolutely spitting blood if I was the Italian manager, because that's an opportunity where you've just got to run into the corner and run the clock down. And then you never know. And I think the penalty is a clear penalty. I'd slightly disagree with both of you. I think it's a quite obvious penalty. And I think it's an example of them, again, just panicking and not keeping their composure. And if England are going to do better in the final, definitely if it's Spain they play in the final, They'll have to play a lot better. And my final point would be that there's this whole discussion around whether Sarina Wiegman's getting her selection right or wrong, because she seems to be getting it right in that she's rectifying it with her substitutions. But I don't know if that can always work. I don't know if that's always going to get you through, because, as I mentioned, I don't think they played particularly well until Chloe and Najim came on in that second half and changed the game. And I also love how raw those two players are. Chloe and Azerbaijan feel like they're not FA groomed tactical players. They feel like they're very off the cuff. Just give me the ball. I'm going to do something a little bit raw. I'm going to take on a player. I'm going to be a little bit rogue. And I kind of like that about those two players as well.
Noz, you wanted to talk about Agyemang, who has had such an impact in the last couple of games.
Yeah, completely. She really feels as if she's had this breakthrough tournament, and just like looking at the fact, like her debut was so recent, and she scored like, is it 3 goals in 4 games or something? It's amazing. But I think especially in the context of like this issue about diversity, and particularly in the women's game, and also in the context of Jess Carter's experiences and racism on social media. The other day I was reading an article in The Guardian by Anita Asante. It was from 2022, and she was basically talking about the lack of diversity in the women's game, and in particular the lack of black players, and it was so predominantly white. She cited like loads of reasons that might be the case. One being how white the coaching sort of setup is in the women's game. Another one was about how WSL teams seem to have copied the men's game in terms of having training facilities in rural sort of like areas in suburbs, and obviously those are predominantly or far more white compared to inner city areas, and then you get into a whole issue about how difficult it is for certain demographics to sort of travel to training and travel to trials. So and at that time when she and other people sort of brought this up, obviously the England team were doing really well, and they experienced a big backlash to that. It's all on merit. We're like, why are you bringing this into it? Which is obviously sort of like really stupid headed. But I think when you've got a breakout star like Agyemang, I think it's that thing of, if you see yourself in the people who are having success, if you see yourself on the pitch and becoming sort of national heroes and almost transcending the sport in some way, that can inspire. And that's, I think that's what's particularly exciting about Agyemang in terms of like, hopefully she already feels as if she's going to be a transcendent sort of like individual in terms of the game, even though she's so young and even though she's so early in her career. But like, it's just exciting the fact that this could sort of like, you could have like lots of girls of different sort of demographics that sort of look at her and plays like her and kind of think, well, actually, like I finally see someone like me on the pitch doing it. So I think that's what I find most exciting about that.
I think it's just a shame that we have to have someone like Agyemang who has to be excellent and almost a star to inspire other girls to want to be in this particular England setup. I would love it to just to be a squad player and just not getting the crucial goals, for that to be enough, to just be able to see her on the bench, for example. She's a phenomenal player and she's a great talent. She's doing really, really well, but it just feels like the bar for there has to be a star player, a black star player, for that to inspire other ethnic minority girls, and I think that's a shame. Why can't she just be an okay player and that be enough? Do you know what I mean? For her to inspire other girls and other generations to want to be England footballers. It feels like we need this pin-up star. We looked at, if she hadn't have scored yesterday, would the conversation be around inspiring other black girls, other British Asian girls into wanting to be footballers? Do you know what I mean? I feel that just the bar of expectation for inspiring other girls, for black girls, is so much higher than everybody else, and I just think that's so unfair.
But you know as well as I do, Jordan, like that's always been the case. Anyone,
of course,
any person of colour or any sort of like ethnic minority, like it's not like sadly, and this pisses me off as much as I'm sure as it does you. Being mediocre is sort of like seen as being less than mediocre, and it's this idea of like, it almost relates to like the good immigrant thing of like you have to be exceptional and then you're accepted and then you're heroized. Mm-hmm. But if you're just at a level where, like, say a white player is, then suddenly you're not one of the good ones, and I think sadly, like that's the nature of things. And what I'd hate is if you've got a situation now where you've got players who are legitimately complaining about racism on social media because of the colour of their skin. And I don't want basically thinly veiled racists to turn around and say, "Oh, well, look at Anjuman, she's getting all the praise," which is a totally wrong-headed way of looking at it. But it sort of points to what you're saying in terms of like, why does it always have to be exceptional sort of people of colour who are heroised?
Nick, there's an interesting discussion about Wiegman and her changes and when she makes them and when she brought, Kelly and Agyemang on, and whether she should do it half an hour earlier or actually you wait until, the Italians are knackered and think, oh, we're close here, and then you sort of hit them with the chaos, as Jordan called it. Because at the time you're thinking you've got to change something. I felt like I'm yelling at Wiegman like I'm yelling at Southgate.
Yeah, completely. I'll talk about one of the changes first in the context of the very instructive discussion that we've just had, because it's worth pointing out that Jess Carter did come onto the pitch right at the end. She had been named among the subs. She came on towards the end, and it can get lost in the maelstrom of those late moments of a chaotic game like that. But she got an absolutely incredible reception, which was just a really nice moment, I think, and a deserved moment. And at the start of the game as well, it was quite well documented. The players opted not to take the knee because I think they're looking for more substantive action rather than gestures, and I think we have to go along with them on that because they know how they feel and how the situation has affected them. And Jess and the subs instead linked arms on the touchline in a visible show of solidarity. So that was a really important and good moment that can get lost in the swirl. Regarding the other subs, I mean people with like 15-20 minutes to go were definitely starting to agitate for Wiegman to start shaking things up a bit more. They were toiling, as we've all said already, but she does seem to time it well. And to be fair, the game breakers came on and broke the game. And I think you just have to trust that they understand how long certain players can go for. They've got the data, they've got the stuff like that. They can see signs in the opposing players when they're tiring, which Italy were clearly, I think, in the last 10 minutes or so. And I think, you kind of can only trust the manager's nous and judgment in terms of the timing of those subs, because it's worked out so far quite spectacularly.
It always comes to this over and over again in football, doesn't it? We as journalists, reporters, broadcasters, storytellers, we always come down in the end to having to fit our narratives around what actually happened on the pitch, right? And similar things happened actually with the England men's team, didn't they, at the Euros, when you've got goals coming out of nowhere in injury time, suddenly a tournament that could have been a terrible tournament becomes an all right tournament. And I think this tournament for England does feel like one that has been on the margins of being a very different tournament, and now they could still win the whole thing. And that's partly the stories we have to tell. It's partly the reality of sport and great players who have great moments. And this conversation about Agyemang, I think worth saying, she didn't just score a goal and almost score a second incredible goal. She also held the ball up. She also worked for the team. She also put herself. She was really impressive. I mean, something else for a teenager. But of course, I feel like because we haven't really talked about it from the Italy lens, and I do want to bring that into it as well, because they've had an extraordinary tournament. I do remember at the start of this tournament chatting with Susie and saying, could they be a dark horse? And I was being a bit optimistic, but I didn't think they could win it. I certainly didn't think that. And I would have been not putting them in the conversation even really to get to a final. So I think the semi-final was the top of the ambitions. And ultimately they were moments away from getting this across the line and going to the final. In some ways, I wonder if, almost like Inter in the Champions League this season, where the story almost looks worse because you go to the final and get hammered, almost in some ways, could this end up being a happier ending for them? Because I think if they go to that final without Girelli, who is looking very much like she's pulled a hamstring, losing that sharp end, say it's Spain again. Spain already outplayed them pretty comprehensively in the groups, but they managed to make it scary for Spain because they had that sharp edge. If they lose that sharp edge, does it become something else? But I do think it's a remarkable tournament for Italy. It has a bit of bittersweet for me, because when I look at it, we just had this really fascinating conversation earlier between Jordan and Noz about representation and how much that matters. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a huge sliding doors moment, I think, of opportunity for Italian football, because this is an amount of focus that there really hasn't been on the women's game probably since the 2019 World Cup in Italy. And bear in mind, Italian football, women's football has gone professional since then. But then I look at the stars of this run, and yes, Sofia Cantore has been magic, and she's off to Washington. I think she's going to be a great player for a number of years. But Cristiana Girelli is 35, Barbara Bonansea, who of course scored iconic goal against Australia in 2019. She's 34. That Juventus attack, all three of them were at Juventus together this season, might not be part of the story at the next major tournament, the next World Cup. So there is a question hanging over it of whether or not this group can carry it forward with quite the excitement that you want them to. And so it falls to, is the Italian Football Federation going to do everything it can to capitalize on this moment and galvanize the movement and get more girls and young women involved? And that's the bit that I wish I had more faith in the Italian Football Federation in general than I do at the moment. So we'll see on that front. But it definitely has been a tournament that I think has captured the imagination more than anything since 2019, which is an opportunity at the very least for Italian football.
Meanwhile, Nick, England, this is their third major final in a row, and it's Sarina Wiegman's fifth in a row. I mean, that's actually extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, she knows how to do it. She's a winner, and she just even the way she answers questions in the press conference afterwards, just so calmly and authoritatively, and it's almost like, okay, what are we all worrying about? She's got that edge and that self-assuredness, and also that sheer pragmatism and sort of dogmatism almost that you need. You know, she's completely certain about the way she wants to do things and the way that England should approach these very hair-raising situations. And yeah, like, you know, her record is completely, well, almost unimpeachable. I think if they'd gone out last night, which they almost did, and by the way, we haven't mentioned that there was a massive moment 4 minutes before the 90 when Hannah Hampton made a astonishing point-blank save from, I think it was Severini, who later conceded the pen, if I'm not wrong. That would have sent England out, would have given Italy the win that at that point they deserved, frankly. I think if that moment goes another way, they're out, and there's a bit of an inquest about what we've talked about already, some of the performances, some of the lack of pattern, some of the way that, you know, a lot of the play for me in the last few games has gone a bit aimlessly down the channels at times. There's not been that structure, that sophistication. But at the end of the day, Wiegman gets it done, and that's because she knows how to do it. And it's an astonishing record. And now we'll have to see whether she can go one better on Sunday. I'm going to the Spain-Germany game tonight. Very interested to see how that goes. An informed Spain team that does give you a chance at the back, but normally blows you away at the front, against a Germany team that has, you know, shown a lot more doggedness in getting this far than maybe we expected of this particular Germany side. Missing a few key players too. So I'm off to that after this, and you know, hoping to see a few signs that if England do get it together on Sunday in a way that they haven't really yet, then Sarina can be lifting another trophy.
We haven't really touched on the most important part of the evening. Was anyone else as outraged as I was to see England-Italy not be white shirts against blue shirts? I mean, it just, because, you know, it just takes you, you're just watching it going, this game could look more, every moment of it could look more spectacular than it is. And I don't know if this is, you know, biased, but I thought at least the England third kit is out, or second kit is kind of nice. Like the Italy one is, it's an abomination. What are they doing? I was very sad about it, Nicky.
So that kit is a deliberate choice to have a kit that is specifically for the women's team. It's a kit that was designed, so there's a kit that the men's team don't wear, the women's team do wear, to give them something that's, I guess, unique to them. I tend to agree. I don't really love the colour. There's a lot of marketing waffle that came with it about it representing certain art styles and mint colours which represent the natural world. I don't know. A lot of that read to me like Adidas trying to flog some shirts. But
what minty world are they living in?
The
land of Colgate. What is this? What is this Wrigley's extra world that we live in? But yes, it upset me. Chris also says, should we watch the final on BBC with Robin Cowan on comms or on ITV with Seb Hutchinson and Lucy Ward? It's a Football Weekly split. Impossible. How do we make that choice? How do we choose? We have to get 2 tellies and listen to them all. Anyway, that'll do. We'll obviously cover Germany, Spain on tomorrow's pod, but that'll do for part 1. Thanks, Nick. You have a nice day.
Thank you, Max. I'll try.
Good stuff. Nick Ames there out in Geneva. He'll be at the Germany-Spain game tonight. That'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll begin talking Arsenal. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Huge news, everybody. On the 11th of September, we are doing a live show, our first one for 2 years. We're at the Troxy. I think, hopefully not because nobody wants to come or wanted to come for 2 years. Geography being the main issue. We're playing the Troxy in London. We would like you and almost 2,000 people to come along. Seems ambitious. How much time we got? Basically 2 months to flog these tickets. But I don't want to sound desperate. It will sell fast. We will, we will have a brilliant panel, of course, and try and get in some cameos, a big halftime show. If you are not unable to come to London, you can live stream it from wherever you are sitting. So every single person listening to this can come, basically. So just don't let us down. I don't want to be angry. I'd just be disappointed. TheGuardian.com/Football Weekly Live. It will be lovely to see you all the 11th of September at the Troxy in East London. We'll put a link in the pod description. We'll put it all over the Instagram. I'll tweet about it every hour and annoy everybody. Let's do a bit of Arsenal. Nicky and Jordan are both here, of course. Are you happy with business so far, Jordan?
Yes, I am happy with what we've done so far. We've addressed, I think, some key holes that are going to be needed to be filled if we're going to win this down Premier League. I think Zubimendi is a phenomenal signing. I think he might actually prove to be the better signing in a weird way than Gyökeres, which is he's all but done. I think he's a lovely player that I think will just bring the dynamism into our game that I think we need from in the middle. The Mascara deal, I think that's been done. I think that's a future-proofing signing for the next couple of years, but it's good backup there. Kepa, I'm not a big lover of, but I think as a number 2, I think you're going to struggle to get a better number 2 goalkeeper than Kepa. I would like a left winger. That's me being a bit greedy. We've spent like £1 billion already, but I would like a left winger because I'm not convinced that Martinelli and Trossard are the answers. If the bar now is to win the title or the Champions League, I don't know if you do it with one of those two as your starting left winger. But otherwise, I think Arsenal are looking like they're very, very strong. Defensively, we've always been good. So I mean, defensively, I think we're pretty solid. I think the problem has been just creating a little bit more and having that guy that can put the ball in the back of the net in those really key moments across the season. And also depth. It's 4 competitions. It's a long season. I think the depth, we're seeing addressed by Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal. I think they know there's a lot of games coming this season. So I think that's something I'm really pleased that we have that we've addressed. But I think mentality as well, before Nicky comes in, I think mentality is equally an issue as just transfers. We can buy great players. That's all well and good. But I think the Arsenal mindset has to really change somehow. If they have to really go to somewhere this season that have not been before, if they really want to get the job done.
Yeah, I think mentality and winning is such a hard thing to pin down in football, isn't it? Like, I've heard a lot of this from people in the reporting of the Gyökeres signing. Oh, he's a mentality monster. It's everyone's favourite phrase, mentality monster, coming in. But I mean, he's certainly used to winning, isn't he, from Sporting? And of course, Madueke now arriving as a world champion from Chelsea. I mean, that feels a very odd way of framing it. But hey, they did just win something. I think I'm the same as Jordan. It's hard not to feel good about this summer if the Gyökeres deal gets across the line. I think last time I came on, Max, you asked me about Arsenal's transfers, and I was saying, well, I really need a striker before I'm going to feel good about it. And this deal that seems to drag on forever and ever. At time of recording, we're still waiting for it to be official, but it does sound like it's very close now. So it just is a big a big issue, and it has been a big issue. And I think no matter which way you cut it, and no matter how much love I can have as a fan for Mikel Merino, that's not the player you want starting up front as your number 9 in key points of the season on a consistent basis. So certainly getting that number 9 in is a big thing. I think the greedy part of me almost goes, okay, that's the number 9 we want as our first choice number 9. And also, where's the second number 9? Because you have injuries and you kind of need someone who isn't Mikel Merino still to be leading the line at other times. But in terms of progress, in terms of addressing things that the club needed, I think it's been a very positive summer. And I think even Madueke, who I think has definitely had mixed response from Arsenal's fan base, does give something different in terms of the way he runs at players and just maybe creating, again, different axes of attack when we do come up against those very deep lines that Arsenal quite often end up against. So, I think you'd be being very churlish, as we just have been, to pick holes in the things that we still want, given how much has been invested.
Yeah. Mentality monster is a funny phrase, isn't it? Just imagine that's the last thing you'd want a friend to be, What's Dave like? He's a mentality monster. I don't want to go out. I don't want to spend an evening with him. Sounds exhausting, doesn't it? Noz, we got a little bit of criticism on Monday for laughing at Manchester United again, basically, but being a bit snippy about Bryan Mbeumo's fee and not Ekitike's when one has proven it in the Premier League, albeit for one brilliant season and some other quite good ones. Do you think we just assume now that United's recruitment is bad and Liverpool's is good? Before they've even kicked a ball, you go, well, he's gone to Man United, so therefore it's a bad signing.
I think it's interesting because obviously, you look at the past and you base your opinions on that, and it's true that Manchester United and Old Trafford is a graveyard for any talented player, and as soon as they leave, they're free, and they're far better. But I do think this is a different transfer window for United, just in terms of it's kind of feels like sensible, solid players in, because how many transfer windows have you seen where you kind of think, oh, who are United going to sign? And then before you know it, they've spent like 180 million.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, well,
it's like you do a full Waitrose shop and you spend 150 quid and you can't make one dinner. And you're like, how does this happen?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You come home and it's like, but you didn't even get the milk. But like, it's that thing of like, and even after a few games, you will see 5 new players and it just feels like the exact same team. So what I like about this transfer window is, like, I think United have needed to sort of like invest in players who are proving the Premier League. I think that's been a massive thing, because the reason why players have been great before they've come to United and been bad and then good again after they've left is quite often they have flourished in different leagues and struggled in the Premier League for various different reasons. Like Anthony's a great example, and then go to a league that suits them and play really well. So Cunha, Mbeumo, like you're basically buying goals, you are buying Premier League experience, and you know that you will get the play that you bought to a large extent. And also, I think another big thing about United is we've always tended to buy players who are good but don't fit the system. And now you've got a manager who's not like Ten Hag, who was a pragmatist. You've got a manager who is a systems manager and wants particular players for particular positions, and that looks like the players that he's buying. So I'm excited. Whereas I am intrigued about Liverpool's almost change of tack. I put on social media that, like, I asked Liverpool fans slightly mischievously, how do you feel about this? Like, you've had so much success, and now you with this transfer strategy, and now you're buying these players for massive money. How do you feel about that? And obviously they're all chuffed and sort of over the moon. But I do think it's a change of strategy, and I just wonder how that'll work.
Arteta, Jordan, said that he thinks there are 9 teams that can win the Premier League. That seems a stretch to me.
Doesn't seem it is a stretch. 9 teams. Yeah. I mean, who's he got in that 9? That's so bizarre. No, that's clearly wrong. There aren't 9 teams. I think there's 3 teams. I think the top 3 will contest for the title this season. I know everyone's getting excited about Chelsea. until they sign a goalkeeper and a defender, centre-back, I'm not taking Chelsea as serious title contenders. I think there's work that needs to be done there. I think their back four or their back five, including their goalkeeper, is good. I don't think it's better than the top three. So no, I think there's only 3 teams that will do it. But I think the clutch below that may actually be more interesting than the actual top 3. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 clubs that could all grab that 4th spot. And am I right in saying that 5 teams again qualified for the Champions League, or is that just last season? Is it no?
Oh, I don't know what happens with. Doesn't the coefficient depend on what happens in European competition this year? But because there are so many teams in European competition this year that maybe I'm not a Where's Lars when you need? I'm not a coefficient expert. I've got other things
all right.
to do.
We'll leave that to Lars for next week. But I think it's looking like it could be a very good season. But at the same time, with so many of the teams in that kind of middle tier getting pillaged for their best players, it could go back to like old school Premier League where the top 4 or 5 just kind of pull away and the middle group are just a little bit meh. Where in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen the likes of Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, I mean, a fear for them, all really be quite competitive. Fulham, I fear that clutch, Crystal Palace, I feel that kind of clutch of mid-table teams could really fall quite far away from the top 4, 5 or 6, but we'll see.
I was thinking in my head, like, which are the 9? I was trying to work out if you were going to say 9, which 9 has he got in his head? I mean, there's the obvious Liverpool, Arsenal, and City. You're suggesting. See, I think Chelsea are in the conversation next season. I don't think that means they have to be the favourites. I don't think that means you're putting them as ahead of Liverpool or Man City, because obviously I wouldn't. But I think that actually, for the reasons that Jordan was just talking about, I think it's really not inconceivable that there could be a slightly surprising winner, because I think that one of the Premier League's qualities at the moment is because you've got this depth of teams below those title contenders, it really is possible that those teams take quite a few points off the title contenders, and therefore if they get them in the right games, that can shake things up quite a lot. But yeah, those are the clear 4 I've got, and I guess you put Newcastle, Villa, that gets you to 6. I reckon he's probably including Tottenham, even though they finished 17th last season, so that gets you to 7. I don't know who are we getting to get to 9.
I'm not sure, but you've mentioned the T word there, Max. I'm really fearful as an Arsenal fan. I think Spurs are the team to watch this season. I think they're a couple of signings away from not being in title contending talk, but I think Frank, it might take him a little while to get his fingers around what he needs to do with that club. But I rate him quite highly. I think Spurs could be the team. And they've got that monkey off their back of winning a trophy. So the pressure of winning a trophy isn't there this season. And because they finished so low last year, the pressure's kind of really off because they can't do any worse than they did domestically in the league. So I have a horrible feeling Spurs might do something.
I think you're just trying to cover yourself here. It's like you said it, so you've covered yourself. Like, Tottenham has ruined better managers than Thomas Frank. I think he's an excellent manager. I have hope, Noz.
I just love the fact that we're at a stage now where we've spoken about potentially 9 teams could win the league. And we all know none of those are United. There wasn't even a joke. There wasn't even a joke from Jordan or Nicky saying and not United. It was just taken as said. So yeah.
You never know. Before we end part 2, our thoughts with the family and friends of former Liverpool and Wales defender Joey Jones, who's died at the age of 70, about 100 times for Liverpool. Some trophy haul in that, 2 European Cups, UEFA Cup, and a league title in 3 years. His former Wales teammate Mickey Thomas posted on X, this morning I lost my best friend and soulmate, Sir Joey. Our memories will never fade. Today my heart's broken. Love you, Sir Joey, R.I.P. My condolences are with Janice and all the family. We echo those thoughts. We'll be back in a second. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Russell Martin's first game in charge of Rangers. They played Panathinaikos and won 2-0 in Champions League qualification. I mean, I know football never ends, but it just sort of... Nicky, is it never ending more than it's never ending? I mean, I just sort of... I can't... I know that's a Champions League game, but I'm just thinking... There's no time. This is us forever now, and I'm not complaining about the job. It's fun, but it's just endless.
I think the Champions League, as maybe I'm the one being naive on the dates here, I feel like the Champions League early qualifiers have always started pretty early. I think the reason it probably feels maybe to you, like football never ends, is because this podcast and professionally, maybe we're putting that energy into the Club World Cup, which did drag on the end of last season to make this start of this season.
But also like the growth of women's football as well, which is a total positive. Means you don't have your, there's no summer off now. It's like, no, this summer is men's tournament, this summer is women's tournament. So it's a net positive, I guess. The Club World Cup maybe less so.
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually. I've obviously started my career covering men's football, and that has been most of my career covering men's football. And because Italy were doing well this summer, I started getting asked to do things, and I was like, this has kind of always been the thing I just watch for fun and I enjoy it. And now am I going to make this part of my work as well? And yes, professionally there is that element of where you want to give yourself some opportunity to take breaks somewhere in the year, because everyone does need those. I don't know, I suppose some things give me more that sense of fatigue than others, and certainly the Euros hasn't been giving me that sense of fatigue. I think if I was being asked to go and cover Champions League preliminaries at this point of the year, I might be getting a little bit grumpy about it, but luckily for me, I'm not.
I've got news for you, Nicky. We're sending you to Greece for Panathinaikos Rangers in the second leg.
Do you know what, actually, I said that. If you would like to send me to Greece, I'm okay with it. I've got time.
Santorini away, tough place to go, isn't it? Interesting you say that about, the things that you watch just for pleasure. I covered a few cricket matches for TalkSport, and no one tells you that even a one-day game, it goes on all day. And as a cricket fan, you turn up an hour late, you get a pint, you sit there, and you go to the pub for lunch. When you're actually hosting it, you have to get there before the show starts, and the show has to start before the game starts, and then you have to stay there afterwards until it's finished. And it got to the stage where it was like, look, whenever the last wicket goes, we will do until the half hour. So at 6:27, you're like, oh God, please get a wicket. Do it now. Because at 6:31, that's half an hour of me asking, Mike Hussey once again what it's like to bat in the Ashes. So I'd park that for just enjoying it. Anyway, look, good win for Russell Martin. 2 good goals as well from Rangers. Crystal Palace have submitted an appeal against their demotion from the Europa League to the Conference League with the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Decision is expected on or before the 11th of August, with the Europa League group stage beginning on the 24th of September. Is there anyone on the panel that just doesn't feel bitterly sorry? So far we've discussed it. Everyone just feels so sorry for Crystal Palace. Or does anyone think, I don't know, Jordan, you think actually when they get to the Conference League final and they win it, not only will they could win it, and they could do a big up yours to UEFA and all, this could be a really nice story for them in the end.
Yeah, that would be sweeter, but maybe I'm the Grinch here, but it's harsh. Palace are my second team, if you like, so it's grim for them. But they've probably got a better chance of success in this competition, but also more importantly, rules are rules. It is brutal. I know there are a lot of technicalities about how they foul the rules, and UEFA isn't an organisation that I'm massively fond of, but rules are rules, and I think they fell foul of those rules.
Who knew you were the policeman of the pod, John? Who knew?
I'm sorry.
It's like the guy.
I believe in law and order.
It's like the guy who gave me a parking ticket yesterday. And I was like, and I'd spent an hour on the MyRingo app website to actually park the bloody thing. But then they changed when the parking began, and it wasn't 8:30 a.m. It was all night, and I only needed to pay 30p.
Rules are rules.
30p, and I would have been fine. And now I've got an 80 quid ticket, and I was saying to the traffic warden,
rules are rules. Rules are rules, Max.
That was very upsetting. Anyway, Fulham, I think it's quite interesting. AB Chaplin's Foot says, might be of interest to the pod. The quote tweets on the original Tell the Tale, we're probably the best club at putting fans last, which is a tall order in 2025 considering others. Yeah, Fulham put out a tweet saying, we will face Al Ittihad behind closed doors in Portugal. But it appears they told lots of fans they would be playing them in front of closed doors or in front of open doors or whatever the reverse is. All these Fulham fans saying, what? I'm flying to Faro to watch Fulham. And now it's behind closed doors. You can find other things to do. I would sort of be quietly pleased. But yes, a bit annoying if you've booked tickets to go there and then you can't actually watch the game. The football regulator has become law, everybody. Keir Starmer said the bill was a proud and defining moment for English football and will usher in a stronger, fairer future for the game. Kevin Miles, mate of the pod, from the chief executive of the Football Support Association, says this is an historic moment for football in this country. Power the regulator will have. Tough new financial regulations to make sure clubs have long-term sustainable future. Stronger tests to stop rogue owners. New standards for fan engagement in club decision-making. A ban on clubs joining closed-shop competitions and breakaway leagues. Backstop powers to ensure a fair financial distribution between leagues, and protections for key club heritage aspects like home shirt colours and club badges and stadium moves. I guess, Noz, the cynic in you or us or anyone will be, it feels good and the right people want it, I think, and the people who are against it are the ones that you would suspect of having sort of quite obvious vested interests. But until it comes into practice, we see how it works. It's so hard to celebrate, I think.
Oh, completely. I mean, it's like all these things. I mean, the mission statements sound great, and all their sort of like plans seem great. But we need to have like a real life situation where a rogue sort of owner does come in or does try and change things, and see how powerful they are and how willing they are to change things.
Rob says, "Dear Max and Football Weekly podcast team," this is quite a long, detailed email, but Rob has really put the work in. As the long and desperate off-season dragged on, as we've just discussed, there hasn't been one, Rob, but look, congratulations for finding it on whichever Thursday that was. Without even the Club World Cup delays to suffer through and tired of waiting for Arsenal to finalise the Gyökeres deal, I found myself spiralling into what some might call statistical overreach, deciding to calculate the forecast accuracy scores for your previous season's predictions. I went full spreadsheet mode, running 2 different models to assess how well or how wildly last year's panellists performed. Firstly, I used a points-based method based on 20, but congratulations to anyone who is still listening, based on 20 points for correctly predicting the Premier League winner, 5 points each for correctly placing the teams in the top 4 or bottom 3, resulting in an accuracy percentage based on a maximum of 55 points. Secondly, I used a forecast error model that compared each panelist's predicted log position for their top 4 and bottom 3 with their actual finish, and used this to calculate an average accuracy based on total positional differences. Finally, I used the average of the 2 models to produce a single blended forecast accuracy percentage, which I fondly dubbed the PLXP, Premier League Expectation Precision Percentage. And the results are in. Would anybody like to know the results?
Go on.
I do.
Okay. You were in it, Jordan. That's interesting. 6th place, John Bruin. He got 3 of the top 4. Was derailed by having Spurs in fourth. Only correctly predicted 1 relegation team, with his expectations of Forest, who, as you know, finished 7th, and Everton sealing his undoing. Final score, 56%. 5th, Max. Nailed Arsenal in 2nd, and Liverpool in 4th. Was also tempted by Spurs in 3rd. Called Leicester and Southampton to go down, but horribly underestimated Forest. Overall, 60.9%. 4th, Jordan. Well done. A solid 3 out of 4 at the top, but with Aston Villa in 2nd. Called Southampton and Ipswich for the drop. Also had Brentford 10th to the mix. Accuracy 67%. These were our previews of last season's. These are on our, if you want to listen back, a completist would listen back
and double check
the previews we did and double check. Lucy came 3rd. 3 of the top 4 picked, but with Liverpool 4th, another seduced by sad Spurs, gets full marks for correctly identifying the relegated teams, 69.1%. Jonathan Wilson 2nd, you see where this is going. Predicted 3 of 4, tripped by Man United in 4th, but like Lucy Ward, spot on with the bottom 3, correctly placed Southampton stone last, final accuracy 71.2%. Barry Glendenning, our champion. And a healthy bonus of picking the winner, wisely ignored both Spurs and Man United, with only Villa spoiling an otherwise clairvoyant top 4 in the relegation zone. Forest befuddled him too, but he nailed Southampton and Leicester. He is the winner for 2024-25, 84.5%. So that is devastating for all of us, isn't it? But well done to Barry Glendenning, who is currently sort of basically. Have you ever watched Alone? Have you watched Alone? He's in deepest Nova Scotia. Sort of, he's had to build a hut out of things he can find, and he has to kill a moose with his bare hands, and then and eat that for 6 weeks. If he survives, we'll have him back on the pod. Anyway, thanks again for the brilliant entertainment, says Rob. Your forecasts were almost as fun to analyse as they were to listen to. I look forward to the new season. I hope the crystal balls are ready. Another spreadsheet awaits. Okay, well, our previews are in a couple of weeks' time, I think. But thank you, Rob. Finally, Moonlight Hanger says, given that Noz is writing fringe previews these days, which of the panel would he most likely to see do 2 weeks in Edinburgh? I was going to say which recent or current Premier League manager, but we all know the answer to those questions is always Sean Dyche. Of course it is. So, yeah, you can pick a Football Weekly panellist Or you can pick a football manager or whoever you want. What are you writing, Noz?
I just do like previews and sort of best of the fringe sort of for Rolling Stone. So yeah, I enjoy those. I'll be going to see your other podcast co-host as well. So that'll be good. I mean, going back to the question, has any of that rubbed off on you? Have you sort of become funnier?
What, by hanging around with David O'Doherty?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I mean, it's not for me to say, is it, Noz?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'd say is it definitely wouldn't be Jordan, because Jordan would sort of like say, well, rules are rules, and that joke doesn't work for this reason.
Damn right.
Anyway, I'll go and read them, Noz. And if you haven't ever been to Edinburgh before, it is good fun.
You say it's good fun. You also have silent discos and Oxbridge Freshers doing sort of like street performances. So it's
I mean that's good and bad, but like bad is also good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that'll do for today. Thanks everybody. Thanks Nicky.
Thanks,
Noz.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jordan.
Cheers, mate.
Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove. Our executive producer is Danielle Stevens, and we'll be back tomorrow.
This is The Guardian.